Good evening, dandies. Welcome to Undetermined, the podcast.
All right, we're on.
Yes. Welcome to the new year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
January 4th, 2020.
Hey, you didn't fuck that up.
I did. I got it right.
Job.
All right. If I were writing a check, I would have totally screwed it.
Yeah. I had to write it down the other day. It wasn't that bad. I nailed it, but I was really overly conscious of it. So, who are we talking to this afternoon?
I am 7, Arizona Black from Manhattan, Kansas. I play in a band called Headlight Rivals, and I do some local art and that sort of stuff here. Just an old timer, really, from the Manhattan area. My first band was Truck Stop Love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was a junior in high school, and I met a fella that just come to K-State to go to school. His name was Shane Miller, and he and I met at a show, punk rock show or something, and had a lot of things in common. Like, we both loved SST Records.
Yeah.
At that time, it was, oddly enough, you guys just interviewed one of the members, but the Screaming Trees had put out an EP, and they put out a full record out on SST, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it.
And we both got that, and we were both just like, I mean, we're already into punk rock. That was, our thing. But when we heard that, it was like, oh, this makes sense. It opened up loving the Husker Du even more, and replacements, like so many more options than just like bash and mad, angry punk rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Ginn was pretty prolific.
Yeah.
With that whole thing, which is interesting, just that how many, I don't know, we hear stories going back and forth, but it's like about how great he was or wasn't to do business with. But, you still got to admit, he opened a lot of doors, man.
He really
for
did.
A lot of people.
He had a lot of help from a lot of people, in that scene too. I mean, his brother alone, being an amazing artist, everybody knows him as Ray Pettibone. And he's just as much, I think, as important to that SST kind of stuff, because he was kind of telling his brother what was cool too, a little bit, and having the relationship with the boys from Red Cross, and maintaining some sort of relationship with Keith Morris at that time. All that whole entire scene is real important, and I saw it evolve as I evolved as a listener of music. You know what I mean? I could see Greg was taking more chances on different styles and stuff, and it was brilliant. But the Screaming Trees, that Northwest hunker down and do mushrooms and smoke pot, punk rock was like, it did tune into the Midwest kind of sound,
Yeah. Well, I mean, closest thing to the birth of indie in my timeline, I think, really, I mean, I'm sure it's arguable for different people in different places all over the country, but that was the big DIY label at the time,
right? Exactly, and it was like when we did Truck Stop Love, it wasn't like we were gonna be. I mean, I'm sure in my mind I was like, oh, we're gonna be a punk rock band,
right?
Yeah, but in Rich's mind, it was we're gonna be Tom Petty, or
right.
Eric Moline's mind, it was I'm a badass, because he was. I can do whatever I want, and we just all had different ideas, and that's the brilliant thing to making music in the Midwest. You do get all those different.
Yeah,
that's what made it so awesome too, in my opinion. That just the diversity of influences and where it's gonna lead it's fascinating. It's kind of I'm the guy that will always mix up my food just to see what it tastes like, and I like seeing it. And my wife will look at me horrified if we're at a restaurant, and I'm like, I gotta find out.
Those Screaming Tree guys are also I mean, they are the epitome of true rock and roll legends. Because those guys went to school together. They started when they were so young, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's kind of like the Red Cross guys. They started, so young that to me, their journey in life is unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable. And getting to meet some of those guys in Seattle, and I got to play in a band with Mark Pickerel, and he is one of my favorite drummers ever. I mean, I got to see him with the Screaming Trees in Lawrence, Kansas before I ever went to Seattle. So it was like just dumb luck, just kind of dumb luck.
Yeah.
And with you guys interviewing
Gary Lee,
yeah, so nostalgic, and his stuff is mind blowing.
What we were just blown away at how generous he was with his stories.
Man, and just a great person in general.
Yeah.
I mean, people need to listen up. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah, and a mind like a steel trap, dude. I was amazed at that, and he was like, I believe it was June 29th, 1990. It's like, wow, you can recall all that shit. Wow, that's amazing. And just gave us a real good timeline on him.
I think I made a comment on one of his posts about the time I saw him in Lawrence at the Bottleneck, and it was the most insane thing I'd ever seen, because they're not small fellas, Gary and Van, and holy smokes, man, they were rolling on the stage while Mark's just standing there, just like a statue. And I was like, oh, this is rock and roll, man.
Yeah.
This is rock and roll.
Yeah. You can see him doing that a little bit in like video for like a Nearly Lost You, it's doing that. It's like, man, if I did that, I'd break a hip.
It'd be cool for you to get his brother on here and talk to him too. He's a great guy too. I'm sure he'd give you a great interview.
Oh, probably. Yeah, we'd love to have him.
Give Van a shout sometime.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to. We get a lot of people too. I mean, we just like to have back on and, get updates from, but it's, just guests keep stacking up and things like that. But we're, we always like to have people back on for updates too, when we can. But
right. We're finishing up our Truck Stop Love member at this point. So we had a good time with Rich and Eric. That was one of my favorite episodes that we've done.
Fun guys. Yeah.
They are great, great guys. And I am totally blessed to have met them at the age I was, and to have an experience with them for a couple years before I moved to Seattle, so I don't regret that relationship at all. And we've reconnected years later, and it's a different thing, adult thing, which is nice. And getting to go spend time with Rich Yargis up in Minnesota and having him come down here and spend time with us, getting to play some songs with him again is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just doesn't happen all the time. You know what I mean?
It really does kind of feel like there's this almost reunion type atmosphere happening. I don't, and that's not quite the right word, I don't think, but
I dig that.
I do. I feel like, and I don't know if John, if you've noticed this too, I feel like we're kind of walking in, as these guys that kind of listened to things and paid attention to it, but we were kind of outsiders to it. And I feel like, man, we're getting like all these really, I feel like we're walking into a family atmosphere in a lot of ways.
You are. I mean, you really are. I mean, that's definitely what it is. It's like, a lot of people had to stop playing music to have kids and stuff, but there's always the one or two members that, unfortunately didn't have kids or didn't want kids. And so they stayed in the game the whole entire time. And when these people are ready to come back, we are open armed, ready for it to happen. We didn't hold it against them for growing up, or having a life experience that you can't control. It does feel like a reunion, but at the same time, I mean, we're only here for a certain amount of time on Earth, and you can see what life experience does to you in time gaps. So you go to college for 4 years.
Right.
If that's away from home, then you're just supporting that scene if you're into music, So you say you live in Lawrence, or that's a bad example. Okay, say you live in Ottawa and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to go to college. And your mom and dad are like, well, you should go to Lawrence. And you're like, no, Mom, I want further away. So they come to Manhattan, Kansas. There's only that 4-year time period to experience local music.
Yeah.
And so if there's not somebody in college that likes you, you're not going to get played on the local radio, and they're not going to come out and see you, you know? And if you have that luxury, then you better make a lifetime friendship with them. So when they do leave, they tell their friends about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might be the only way to survive being a lifer, you know what I mean, without making money.
Well, and to a certain extent, that's kind of where John and I are coming from, too. Yeah. Like, we were living in Springfield, Missouri, you know, a little college town in the Midwest. And, you know, we remembered the truck stop loves and those. And oh, yeah. Man, let's, you know, and that was a thought. Well, I wonder if we can talk to those guys. Let's see what's up with that, and then the pause, and you know,
all
we've been managing to do that. And what I've really liked is that it's like everybody is able to, I think, maybe have gotten to a place where they can celebrate a lot of that history, but at the same time be okay with moving forward too, and celebrate that for each other.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. And I don't sense that, oh, God damn it, look at what they're doing while I'm doing this, you know?
Right. And that's definitely a characteristic that you have right out of high, you know, if you are just going into college, you don't quite understand how relationships work. It's a little easier to burn bridges because you don't really see the longevity in anything, you know, and if you are smart enough to, or have the wisdom enough to realize that sooner, the better you're going to be off, because not everybody who's talented can produce all the time. You know, sometimes you got to wait a while before that brilliance can be manifest. You know, you got to be ready and have open arms, you know, and not be judgmental or where have you been, you know? That just doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Not in this day and age.
Well, and I think another thing that's interesting too, just in talking and going down that avenue, looking into labels like Black Site Records and others, and also just talking to some other Missouri artists that we know. There's just something about the Midwesterners, I think, in especially like Midwestern punks. And there's just kind of a kindred spirit that it's like, you know, my wife was asking me, because, you know, she's not familiar with everything I listen to. You know, she's like, oh, who are you talking to? And I was like, oh, I was doing a sound check with Seven Black last night. And she's like, oh, who's that? I was like, yeah, one of the Kansas guys. She's like, oh, that'll be good then.
But they always turn out to be good episodes.
Yeah, because it's like, she's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like you pick up with those guys and it just seems like you guys can just like talk off the bat and you all just, there's something to that. Even if you're from Kansas City, even if you're from Chicago, even if you're from a little town of 4,000 people in southern Missouri, you know, or up in Minnesota somewhere. I think there's just something to carves people out of wood, man. This land.
Right. You know, I'll tell you, I got one of the best jobs in my whole entire life purely from being from Kansas. I mean, I don't really want to talk about it too much, but I got a job working for a huge star. I mean, one of the biggest stars of the time in Seattle. And I purely got it because I had met them before in Kansas, and they were kind of like, hey, we can trust you, you know? And I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
There's assholes in Kansas too.
You know,
really are, but
and it was like, I think everybody thinks that we can't be, you know, making the pie at home, putting on the, you know, and
a little
to
bit,
some degree that is a little bit true.
We at least, we know Aunt B, every one of us.
Yeah. Or we aspire, you know, to at least go steal the pie off of her window, you know. I don't know. I'm just saying, but we care about our neighbors. You know, that is definitely something that is Midwestern kind of thing. But I think it should be an American thing, and we're just trying to set an example. Is all.
And maybe part of it is, you know, if you go to a coast, guess what, man? It didn't work out with this guitar player. There are 20 more. I can
Well, that's
find.
true. And that's what I was thinking of when you were talking about, everybody with different tastes. And it's like, I mean, I look back when I was in a band, I had a similar thing going on in a small town in Illinois, but that was really just the case. It was like, we were the left, there was a band that were like really kind of progressive and had all their shit down, and they were like classically trained, everything else like that. And they were the band for our small town. We were the leftover musicians. So it's like, I had a guitar player who really liked Bon Jovi. I was into like Depeche Mode and the Sex Pistols. We had a bass player like country, and a drummer, yeah.
That's how it worked.
At the time when I was in it, and we were like in high school and we hated it, because it's like, I'm not listening to that shit,
Right.
Oh, check this out. No, I'm not listening to that. We go back and forth on it. But in retrospect, it was like, man, that's came out for a really good sound at the time. I just wish we could have matured past it. And
it's definitely those inner struggles, it's like that inner competition. And that's another thing I'm saying is like, man, if you could bottle up competition, that feeling, because you don't really kind of realize that you're doing it. You just think that you're trying to prove somebody something, even though you can't pinpoint what it is. It's like, if you can get everybody working together, and that same feeling, you're going to get much more accomplished than doing it separately. But I think at the same time, though, if you don't have that, you wouldn't get the sex. You wouldn't get like these bands that can't get along, and stay a band. It'd be like the Replacements. It's like, if they all could have stayed together, would it still be as good as when they're having strife? Or Oasis, or, one of those type of bands.
Yep. You always wonder how much that's a part of it. It's like you don't wish discomfort or addiction or any of those things on people, but there's some prime examples. And when Skinny Puppy went sober, not that great.
Was it?
Yeah,
not so
Sorry,
good. Not so good.
Heroin's a terrible drug, but Two Dark Park's a really good album.
Yeah.
That's cruel. Yeah.
I do miss those types of things, though.
It's cruel to say, but it's true.
I just now that we get to I don't know about you guys. I am 47. I'm going to be 48 this year. So I think getting to this age, it becomes more and more apparent to me to have no competition. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to compete. I'm trying to do something alongside you. You know, and if I can help you get to where you're trying to go, then let me try to help, don't,
and vice versa.
Don't make up stories in your mind that I'm a certain way or whatever, because I'm pretty easy to get along with, pretty easy to work with. And that's how I feel about my band members now. We are a family. I mean, we care about each other outside of practice as much as we care inside practice. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's honestly how we're operating, and I think that's what's keeping us somewhat in the game. We're not huge, we're not a major presence right now, but I think it really does feel like family. Like, we'll get shout outs still from people that have been on a long time ago, and we'll communicate with them and post about them, and it's like it is family.
Right, it is. And the other thing is you are both setting up a thing for the future, so if somebody, say inside your family or a friend, has a kid that's interested in what you kind of do, you can be setting him up to be successful, give him the don't do this, try to do this, kind of thing. And that's, my band isn't really, we're not trying to become popular, but the thing we're trying to do is leave something behind, that's going to be helpful to somebody else, and not in it for ourselves.
Right.
It's like, we need to have a future for, one of our guys has a daughter, the other one has a daughter, they're going to have kids eventually. There needs to be something that,
well, that's exactly, I mean, that's where it started initially, before we ever really, decided to upload anything. We were just like, why don't we just record some of these conversations we have, because we think they're funny and we've got funny stories,
right?
And shit. And we would sit on the phone and just bullshit for hours sometimes, especially since Matt moved a little ways away. And then it was like, why don't we just record these? And we're just like, why don't we just, for posterity, just so we can embarrass our kids later. They got something to listen to, if we get hit by a bus,
If you're having a beer or something like that, it's definitely going to help grease the memory wheels.
Right.
And you'll be like, well, I wish I could remember that. We should have recorded that.
Yeah.
You guys have it going on.
Right. And I come at it kind of not to woe is me, but I lost my dad when I was young, and the thing, boy, what I wouldn't give to have like just something like that where I could just hear him, like, because I didn't know the grown up, the grown up me didn't know him.
Right.
So like I would love for, to be able to sit in and just eavesdrop on conversations that he had with his friends.
Oh yeah. You definitely need to be conscious around. I mean, you got to be conscious of other people. You can't. I used to just take it for granted that I had brothers growing up, and that my parents stayed together the whole entire time, where I met a lot of people that are single children, with just their mom that took care of them or just their dad that took care of them. And it was hard for me to start kind of thinking, I need to be a little bit more conscious of my experience and how it's special, because not everybody gets it. Not everybody has that big brother that's going to show you rock and roll,
Right.
You had to pull it out of your neighbor and, that sort of thing. But I think you had a good experience too, man. Even I feel bad that your dad passed away when you were young, but I think that probably made you stronger too, to a certain degree.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there are things of value that I definitely got out of that. I wouldn't say if I got a choice to have that all over again, I would jump at it.
Right.
But
I don't think, that's not good. It's not funny. I'm sorry.
But no. You know what? It's been a long time. Well, it's not a raw subject for me. And it really, if anything, it's become more of a thing where, how can I help someone with that experience?
Right.
What can I derive from that's going to be of benefit to somebody else?
Matt's dad was also a brilliant singer songwriter. Guitar player. If you check out, you have to dig around a little bit in the episodes, but if you see anything up there by Terry Langston, that's a lot of his old recordings. And man, he was going somewhere. I mean,
cool.
Yeah, I love his music. It's just great, But I'm into that old timey.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know, I'd classify it maybe early kind of bluegrass country stuff, but it's good.
I think I'm envious of it because I didn't have any musicians in my family. I mean, other than people that played trombone, and I have a cousin that is brilliant trombone player, and he plays for the Air Force. I mean, it's not easy to get in.
I bet there's not a huge core of
that band at all.
Trombonists.
No. And he's over in Germany now, and his wife is like, I think she's lieutenant colonel, and they're over there and doing that experience. But like, I didn't have a brother that played music. I didn't have an uncle but I had a brother that was really good at roping calves. I had a brother that was really good at playing football, and I had a brother that was really good at playing art,
making art,
or playing art, drawing and painting. And I had to find something that was me, and that was the only thing that was left. Art, that it was like that or stripping.
Right.
And I was.
There's still time. So. There's still time.
Do some keto. Yeah.
I envy that story. I that's a great thing, man. And
I am too. But
I'm sorry you didn't get more experiences with it, but that's like impressive.
And honestly, a little bit of this is maybe a tribute to him. Just doing the podcast, as weird as that sounds.
No, that's awesome, man. You have to honor your folks, because I've lost both my parents, and you have to honor them in the best way that you can do it. You know what I mean? you can't have anybody tell you how to do it.
Right.
You've got to do it the way that your heart tells you to do it, you know?
And I don't know that I would have like this, you know, and I'm not a great musician, and it kills me that I had a dad that was like a really good one. I've got a pretty good ear, and I understand music, and I love listening to it. It's just something that means a lot to me. So
yeah,
this is second best, and it's a pretty good second best.
Dude, there's a lot of artists that started late in life, you know, there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of them that can't play worth a damn.
Yeah.
and they are huge stars, dude. Like, you'd be surprised who needs a lesson here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Improv is a hell of a acting, you know, and musicianship.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
If you got 3 or 4 other people backing you, then you can hide not having any talent, you know, playing. But I'm just saying, I think a lot of people say, oh, I can't draw. Well, I think anybody can draw. It's how much time you do drawing, you know?
Right.
And then you can't have anybody tell you if it's bad or good.
That's all subjective. Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's all subjective. The truth is that you got to decide to support a human and not support your own personal idea of what's good and what's bad.
Right.
Unless you can evidently see somebody beating their wife or killing animals or something like that. I mean, if you know somebody's good, they're just trying to live, dude. That's all they're trying to do. They're just trying to sell their wares as much as anybody else, you know? So why not? Why not help out your fellow buddy? You know, my thing is also that I don't look at like Godzillionaire as my competition, man. I see them as my hometown band.
Right.
You know, they're my local band. I think that bands from Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, all this is our local area, dude. Why not help each other? There's no competition.
Right, and that's why we love what, you know,
Andrew and Sean with Red Egg
and
doing Black Site.
Black Site.
Yeah, that's amazing stuff.
You know, I know we keep circling back to it, but I really feel like even your podcast is that sort of thing, man. I mean, you are definitely giving people a chance to hear stories from freaky people and the past, but we're still relevant.
Yeah.
We're still here, and we're still doing stuff. And you'd be pulling out your hair if you knew what we did in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Well, I'll tell you this one little interesting tidbit with it. We're getting a bigger response with you guys. Honestly,
right on.
Than we are with you know, even like the Gary Lee Conner. Now that's definitely one of our better listened to episodes, but we're still getting a bigger response with the Truck Stop Loves and the Godzillionaires, and that's it. That was unexpected for me, but welcome at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. I'm and you got to get the pedal jets on here. You know, you got to start Homestead Grays. You got to, you know, Eric Moline's a great guy to talk to. He could probably hook you up with some good people to talk to.
I've been really following to Ultimate Fake Book lately, and
oh man, I can't wait for that record to drop.
Oh yeah, he just posted like something about Dead Girls.
Oh,
putting out like just a $5. You can get a record for $5 or something. I need to
right on.
I have to check that out. I have to put that up on the website.
Yeah, I need to get on that.
Yeah, if that's one thing we really need to do on the website is we need to uplink. We need to have like just a community board there, kind of like be cool to set up just like a light pole, you know, and anybody can paste on flyers, you know, for whatever shit that they want to promote or shows upcoming, things like that.
You guys should figure out some sort of like fantasy garage band kind of lead thing.
We talked about that, man. We love the idea too, just like collaborations. Like we've had a few people like Adam Casto from Nerd Table. They're out of Columbus. You ought to check those guys out.
Right on.
He is the most humble person, but one of the most talented cats I've met lately. And we hooked him up with at least one collaboration. And also just helping people collaborate too, man. We're all about that.
Yeah.
and it's a little self-serving because we're kind of like, man, that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for me telling them.
Yeah.
So you're like, that's my song.
Well, we definitely, that's the other thing is we try not to forget, who helps us and we, that's what's important, man. It's like, with the Godzillionaire guys, Michael Dye has helped us out so much. And Ben White's awesome cat. All those cats, Cody and Mark are really, really good guys. And, Ben is in another really great band, with his girl, Liz, playing bass, and she's amazing. And, they are called, the Vedettes.
Okay.
You've got to check them out, man. It is killer Midwestern, like almost metal, but not. You know what I mean? It's like, and vocalist, female vocalist. It is, dude, so good. I don't know if you guys remember Kill Whitey.
Yeah.
And I think that's who I'm thinking of. That had the female singer.
Okay.
And they just blew my mind. It's kind of like in that vein, but they're going to be big. I think they should be. And, off the subject a little bit, but another band you should check out is Sally and the Hurts. They're from Manhattan, Kansas.
Okay.
And they are more in the, bluegrass kind of sound, but they have, a saw player.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, wood saw, man. And it is insanely good stuff. Like they're also going to, these are, a lot of females driven bands in Kansas, and, they kick ass and they need more attention, definitely. But these are also bands that have helped out Headlight Rivals a lot too, because we do put on a couple fests. We have a do-it-yourself venue called Church of Swole. So we've had over 200 shows. No Cops. We've had Lou Barlow come play. James Greer from Voices came and played. We had several bands. I could go on and on, but I mean, we're laying the track for a co-op basically of musicians in Kansas, and that's where Black Site really falls in. They are the perfect co-op for putting your music out, man. If you can put your money where your mouth is, and it's not hard to get something out, and then you're the only ones that are at fault for it not selling, it's a great thing. It is, once again, a community thing.
They really try and make it as much of a win-win as possible. I think.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's brilliant. And I wish that we would have had that too, because we got delusional in the 90s, man. You just had to be in a band that was halfway good, and you got approached by, all the major labels. They would come to your shows. They'd buy you dinner. They'd pay for you to go do 5 songs and then be like, well, you could do 2 more, but it's going to cost you this, and it's like all they were doing is trying to sell a vacuum sweeper or something to you, really.
Right.
And if they could make sure that you're making installments, it's a lot like going to buy a cell phone now. A record deal then is a lot like buying a cell phone. You go buy a cell phone and they're like, well, we'll give it to you if you get the contract for 2 years, but you're going to be paying this amount every month.
Right.
So, and it's like, come on, man, you said the phone was free. So not everybody in your band understands that phone is for 4 people.
Right.
So one guy goes in the studio and just blows his money. He blows his money, but he also blows your money. And the record label's like, hey, where's that record? I'm like, well, the drums and the bass were done in one day. Well, the label don't care that it was one guy. They want you all to pay for that sort of. And now you're kind of vetted. They come to you, and if you don't have the drive to put out your record already, no one else is going to do it for you. That's a Cinderella story. That's like a 1 in a million, virtual hits kind of thing. And since the format is kind of dying, it's really becoming more visual, you know, through YouTube and those sort of internet kind of things, you know, it's that possibility is going to grow even slimmer. So, why not start your label in your own state, in your own area, and lift every band up around, you know?
And I think that's what at least feels like is happening. It's like, man, every one of you guys that we've talked to, man, I love all these other guys, you know, and just like that really lifting each other out or lifting each other up.
You have to, man.
I love it.
We kind of saw that even in the 80s and 90s when we'd go to the outhouse. The bands would come play. You got to see Fugazi, you got to see War, you got to see Bad Brains, you got to see, you know, Henry Rollins. They all come there, and then you were digging in your pocket to make sure they had gas for the next town. You know, and that's all we're doing that is part of punk rock that no one seems to remember, that punk rock is also about lifting up your community. It doesn't mean you have to fit in. You know, it just means that you're more accepting. You know, but everybody else has to be willing to hear "fuck off" and "you're a twat." You know, it doesn't mean that we're not going to help you. You know, it just means we're going to say what we think. You know,
but that doesn't mean we don't. We're saying that shit we think because we do care. And here I'm going to show you that I do care. I want to make sure you get to the next place.
Right. You wouldn't want me any other way. You know, if you don't like me the way I am right now, you're not going to like me any other way, you know?
So going back to going out Truck Stop Love, then the Mathematics, when does that, how does that time frame work just between that and Headlight Rivals?
Well, I went from Truck Stop Love, I think I left in 1990 and I went to Seattle and I started playing in a band there called Roswell Crash. And it was out of the ashes of a band called Hammerbach. But anyways, I went through many bands out there as kind of a studio musician. I didn't move to Seattle, though, to play music. I moved to Seattle to, I was chasing Skirt and...
I see.
You know what I mean? And
now it makes sense.
I got out there and that fell apart. I met another gal and we had a son together and he passed away, you know, within a few months of being born, and it kind of changed everything. And I stopped working doing the toy design thing and started playing music again. But I also got a job, a really great job, like I was kind of referencing before. I just can't talk about it. I gave one of the confidentiality things, you know what I mean? And
yeah, gotcha. Say no more.
Yep.
Truth is my experience is my own personal thing, and other people are going to think something different.
Right.
Anyways, so
was it Tom Waits? That's a thing I knew.
It was definitely Tom Waits. It was definitely Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was still alive. But anyway, I skipped through many bands while I was there. It was on a couple labels. I got to fill in for Hiro Yamamoto and Truly for about 20 dates or something like that.
Cool.
And had a falling out with the lead singer of the band, but had a great time with Mark, the drummer. It was a great experience. I wouldn't change it other than being grown up. I wish things could be healed and, you know, and things recognized.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when that happens. So you made fucking toys.
Yeah.
See, this blew my mind. I didn't know this about you until today. Then you posted like a 3-year memory, and it's like Stone Warriors or something. You're like, here's some of the toys that I designed, made. How do you get that gig? How does that?
Stone Protectors.
That was
well, when I first moved there to Seattle, I got a temp job and like through Remedy Temp. So I had to travel to Bellevue, Washington, which is across Lake Washington from Seattle. And I'd go there and work in their shipping place. I'd go around and pull toys and ship them off. Well, one day they sent me a packing slip to pull toys and have it delivered in the building. And I was like, all right. So I get the stuff and I walk into this huge, I mean, it was mammoth, in house photography studio. And I was like, walk in, and the guy's like, setting up toys and taking photographs. And I look over and I see that there's a few toys that just the colors don't look right. And I say, I think it'd look better if you change that one guy with this guy because the color. And he goes, I'm colorblind.
Oh, shit.
You've got a job. He hired me as assistant.
Wow.
He hired me as assistant to photography, and then it just worked up to we got 2 different contracts. It was before Jurassic Park come out, but we knew that they're getting ready to make Jurassic Park, and we're going to do all the plush toys for it. So we got to pick out all the textiles, and they needed me. So I could see the colors.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
And then the Stone Protectors are like, well, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and He-Man are just blown up.
Right.
We need something that's going to compete with that. And so we got to kind of toy around with the ideas and help them refine some rough ideas of mixing Treasure Troll with the Ninja Turtle.
I see. So is like Seattle a big like toy mecca for manufacturing or something or design or
Ace Novelty was a huge
Ace
like
Novelty.
they did retail and they did novelty act, you know, like so you're going to the fair, they did all that little tiny shit that you do there, you know.
Yeah.
The rubber pencils, but you could also have all of your shirts done there. You could have they made pull tabs for the whole state. Like we have scratchers here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
There they have pull tabs.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So they do all that printing and all that sort of stuff. So they were like they could make a catalog for anything.
Weird.
You know, one time in this place, I found a box, I shit you not, of 200 Maggot Brain.
Wow.
Funkadelic Maggot Brain vinyl. Dude, and I was just like, what's this doing here?
Yeah.
You know, what's this doing here? And they had done the printing for it.
And they had no idea it was there.
Yeah, they just had an extra box of Maggot Brain. And of course, we pilfered them.
Oh, of course. Yeah. They could have thrown off the whole market. Man, that always amazes me about shit like that. It's like, you know, somewhere like there's just warehouses just full of shit. Like somebody's got there's only been 5 of these ever found. It's like, yeah, somewhere there's a warehouse just pristine
of just full of the greatest stuff.
Yeah.
You know, in England, I think it was Vox, the amp and guitar company. Yeah. They thought they lost a whole warehouse of stuff that burnt down. Well, they found a warehouse full of the stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it was like in the 90s, and they just were like, well, there goes the market. We can sell these for 3 times what they were original just by holding on to them for 30 years. You know?
Wow.
Matt's got a fun story about a Telefunken microphone. With that.
Yeah.
You can give him the kind of long and short of it.
Yeah. So I had this uncle who lived in Chicago, kind of an old hermity, but he loved music. He's a total penny pincher otherwise. But he built his own studio.
That's awesome.
And this was like back in the day, and like he like fitted up just to his own specifications. Like he was just kind of this he taught himself electronics basically. And he grew up in an era, he was like a Depression baby. So he grew up in an era where that wasn't like everybody was doing it. He just kind of self-taught himself with a lot of that stuff, loved music, built his own studio. And like he built his studio basically deliberately so nobody else could totally use it. It had to have him running it. Like the reel-to-reels were set at like this very weird speed that no other reel-to-reel player would play, you know, so he had this control.
Job security.
But when he died, like I was the closest one in the family who understood how a studio worked and what all that stuff was. So the job kind of fell to me, and he had these 2. It's a Telefunken Elam 251.
Yeah,
highly sought after microphones.
Yeah,
in pristine condition, and we decided to keep one, and then we sold one to Telefunken USA.
Yeah.
And they wanted it specifically
for museum, right?
Well,
to reverse engineer.
Oh,
Yeah, because they had lost, essentially, they had lost the engineering schematics for making this mic.
Yeah.
And
right, it had.
Yeah, they went to sell it and they were like, "This is the only one that we've ever seen. We want to buy this so we can reverse engineer it and make it again."
Dude, that is so sick.
Yeah, so he salvaged that line of Telefunken mic.
Well, it wasn't the microphone itself. It was that it was like it came with its original paperwork that
right, all the stuff
showed how it performed out of the box, right? Like when it was brand new. So for a reverse engineering point of view, that's invaluable to see how it performed then versus how it performs now.
That is so awesome. You know, I've lost a lot of family, and some of the best stuff I've found is 40-year-old canned beats jarred in my grandmother's basement, piles and piles of Boy's Life magazines.
Right.
And no, that's a great story, dude.
Yeah.
That is really awesome.
Yeah.
The other microphone or the other Telefunken went. It's in a safety deposit box. That's just going to be a family heirloom. But a bunch of his stuff went to. Are you familiar with a band called The Frames?
I think I've heard the name.
Glenn Hansard.
Glenn Hansard did that movie once. It turned into a Broadway thing. He also did the movie. What was that movie he did a long time ago with the
Commitments? He's in that.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. The Irish Soul Band.
Yeah. I'm going to refresh myself when we get done. But
okay.
Really, really good band.
Excellent band.
I'm a huge Frames fan, and I've been lucky enough to get to know those guys
right on
over the years. And Rob, their guitar player and producer, he has got a pretty interesting story just himself. He agreed to buy a lot of those microphones that were my uncle, and he's using them today to record. And they went back to Chicago, where Rob is, and I really liked that. And Uncle John was he was third generation American, but he was still Irish at heart.
Yep.
So I think knowing that there's kind of a little bit of an Irish connection with that too. I thought, man, I don't know if I could do better to honor him, because I'm not going to be able to use them the way, and I don't want them to just sit.
Right.
I want them to be used. And I think that's
a brilliant,
the best way I could honor him, if that makes sense.
No, that's brilliant, man. Is the other one that you have in your box, is it still working?
Yeah.
You should consider renting it to somebody, so it gets used. So because I think they use that microphone to record full bands, just right in the middle of the room, just one mic.
Yeah, man, I would love that. It would turn into a big family discussion, because there's no but one person in the family really owns it.
Right.
So yeah, I think part of the reason it's sat in a safe deposit box is that way nobody
you should
argues.
Record this show with it, man. You should be using it right now.
Oh man, I would love
to.
That's a conversation. Yeah. Why is there jelly on it?
Yeah, exactly. This is icky.
Yeah, I think I'd be too nervous.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah.
I know how that is.
That's like a $10,000 microphone, as opposed to
if not
$100 one I'm talking into now.
Yeah, I'm talking into my iPhone microphone that came with the phone.
Congratulations though. You're coming into some gear. You got picked up by DNA, right?
Yeah. I got picked up by David Nordschau Amplification. I'm using their 1350 head, and it's 1,350 watts of just insanity.
Yeah.
My whole entire life I've used Ampeg SVT, which is the pretty much the loudest you can get for tube and have it sound good.
Right.
I've had the 400 PS Fender 400 PS and the 300 PS, and those are both nice loud tube amps. But an SVT, you can play that thing and it'll hold you up. You know what I mean? So really used to the tube sound. I got this amp thinking, oh man, I don't know. I'm not going to like solid state, you know, and it was insane. It just was so easy to slide over to this machine. And now I have 2 of them. I'm not going to live without them because they're like 7-8 pound heads, you know, for an old man, it's a lot easier to carry that up some steps than the SVT 8x10, you know.
So how does that sponsorship work? You got to plug them and you got to do ad for them or anything like that?
I mean, I get to plug them just on my own accord, but they plug me.
Yeah.
You know, they're great. They worked with me. They let me try out both heads that they have, you know, up for sale and then gave me a chance to try out the cabs. And so I got exactly what I wanted from them. And it wasn't like a pressure thing. It was more of a, you know, see what this does, you know? And like I said, when I went into it, I was apprehensive. I was like, okay, in the 90s, we used Gailey and Kruger 800 RBs, and they're like 400 watt solid state heads, but you got the sonic maximizer and you put it on top of it, and it sounds kind of like an SVT. You know, a lot of guys use it like, they got that kind of Mesa Boogie sound. So Rage Against the Machine, you know, Jawbreaker, Quicksand, you know, those guys got that really cool mid sound out of them. So I wasn't totally like, I hate solid state. That wasn't the idea. It was just like, I need the headroom for distortion out of this thing. And I'm getting it, you know, it was like, it's a blessing. And if it wasn't for Rich Mattson, Kyle Westrick, the bass player for Rich Mattson's band in Minnesota, or up in Eveleth, he's the one that really turned me on to it. And then David and John Vitale both started working with me, you know, just through email. Gave a kid in Kansas a great deal.
That's awesome. Just kind of test driving it, essentially. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Got older, and I'm getting a little help now. I got Moniker Guitars out of Austin. They endorsed me and made my bass for me, custom bass. And then Oddball Works up in Minnesota, which is Rob Demarius's band. Or Rob Demarius is the owner of Oddball Woodworks, but he's from Topeka, Kansas, and he was in Vitreous Humor, which is like one of that you need to talk to that guy. Vitreous Humor, amazing. Danny Pound was in that band.
Okay.
Check them out. They're really good. Topeka, Kansas, Vitreous Humor.
All right.
But he made me a 10-string bass. And,
oh, wow.
And he is working on a new bass for me now that's a 3-string, but it has a 4th string that's double.
Oh, yeah.
So like it's a little bit different. You know, I like I love Cheap Trick. So
yeah, I do too. I grew up right by those dudes.
Yeah, dude, so you're in Champaign or Rockford?
Well, I grew up in Morrison, Illinois, which is right outside Rockford.
Right on.
So yeah,
right on.
It's weird. You could drive by and see like Robin like out there mowing his lawn sometimes, and it's like
yeah, dude.
That was the first concert I ever saw. Really, first like big name concert I ever saw was Cheap Trick playing at the State Fair because they just playing around that region. They were a regional band.
So good,
yeah,
so good. That's probably one of my biggest influences is Cheap Trick.
Yeah. Nice Trick.
And all of Headlight Rivals is that way. But getting back to your question, just to finish it really quick, is about getting to Headlight Rivals. I left Seattle in 2000 and came back to Kansas, and we'd start a guy that I'd been in a band with in Seattle. We had been in a band called the Cuckoos, and we were on IFA Records. Okay. We were really like Iggy Pop-ish kind of stuff. And we put out a full length, great experience, but the band fell apart. We moved back to Kansas and we started the Mathematics.
Okay.
And that was Duke Fame, who's also in Roach Factory, which was a local band from Manhattan for years. And or Derek Macy, a lot of people would know him. And we went through a lot of drummers. We finally met the real drummer, Chris Kleiner, and he's somebody we went to high school with. So we'd known him for a long time. by this point, we'd known him 20 years plus. So he started playing with us. And then he got his cousin Eric to come play with us. And Eric was maybe 17, 16 at the time. And we're all over 30 at that point. And we started kind of having strife with the singer. And by 2010, 2011, we broke up. A few years later, they need a guitar player in the new band they started. So I started playing guitar in Headlight Rivals. And then the bass player left and I started playing bass instead. So that's how we get to Headlight Rivals from Seattle in 1990. You'd have to listen way earlier to get that.
I will.
That.
I will.
We'll go back. We'll check out some stuff.
It's one thing I struggle with. Is like we do talk to just ourselves being a little older. It's like we talk to a lot of musicians who have like 30-year record catalogs.
Yeah, dude.
And since we talk to somebody once a week, it's very hard to get through those.
Right. And what's funny is John and I both are kind of those proud. We know a lot about music and bands, and we're both just left like I get lost.
I started taking notes at one point, and I was like, "Why am I doing that? I have this recorded. I'm just going to go back."
Go back and listen.
Right.
But yeah, I'm humbled constantly at how much for as much as I thought I did know about the music field and about the different artists and things out there, there's way more that I didn't know about.
I am constantly learning stuff about bands that I thought I knew everything about. The Who. I mean, there's a new, it's not a new documentary, but it's, about their managers of the guys that put the Who together. Right now. And it is brilliant.
I haven't seen it yet.
It'll teach you so much about those guys and what they went through and just their mind about how putting the Who together,
Cool.
But it's always like you're getting that curtain pulled back and seeing the Great and Wonderful Oz and being oh,
yeah.
That's how it went down.
Right. I want to see them pull the curtain back on who decided to put the Spice Girls together.
It's probably the short
Foley thing, man. It's not like a.
You know what? I have this evil theory in my head that I would love to be true, and I'm 99% sure it's not true. But there's that part of me that holds on to maybe that it was just like this, studio musician, songwriter, artist, whoever that was just trying for years and years to like do something real and valuable, and then just finally said, "Fuck this! I need to make some money. I'm gonna make a joke band, man. I'm gonna play into every cliche."
Didn't they do
so
that
hard
with Milli and Vanilli?
Yeah,
kind of. It was just like the Spice Girls were just a big fuck you to the music industry from like this burned out artist that didn't get anything, and then he just. I'm going to give you what you want. It's going to be bad. You're going to love it.
You're
baby,
bad
scary.
You're a bad little radio listener.
Let's name them like the Seven Dwarves and fucking,
naughty music listeners.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw, like, what was the Wannabe? The video for that. It came on MTV, and I was laughing. Like, I was like, this is the most genius music industry parody that I've ever seen. Like, and I'm just like, whoever came up with this is brilliant.
Yeah, it must be a Weird Al joint, something.
Right, and then I later found out, no,
this is real.
That wasn't parody.
This is real.
Just pain.
That's people used to give me shit about saying that I respected the shit out of Milli Vanilli just for the fact that I was like, you know what? They took advantage of something.
Yeah,
they exposed something in the music industry that it was a flaw, and they made a shit ton of money off of it, and good for them. It's a heist, essentially what they did.
What I understand is that they went around and toured after that.
Yeah,
showing
the real faces.
People, and there were, but the two guys I think even did the lip syncing thing for a year or something past it, and it was like.
Yeah.
Who cares, man? If somebody wants to go watch somebody act music,
are you not entertained?
Enjoy it,
are you not entertained?
I'm not going to judge,
right?
Because
I was really, what was it? This was a few years ago. I think it was it King Crimson that like put out a video and like some really pretty people in it and totally made up like what the band name was. And it was like this huge hit in the UK. It was like huge, and then. Afterwards they're like, ha ha, fuckers, it was
us all along. It was us all along.
Yep.
I kind of waited.
I told you didn't like us because we were old.
Yep, I did.
I'd be more impressed if Buck Cherry did that and it was the Rolling Stones, I'd be really impressed. I'd be like, whoa, you guys really pulled one over on me. That's what we really want to see, right? I don't know. Yeah. I'm just hopeful.
I don't know.
I'd give it a watch.
Especially after...
Maybe that's what Greta Van Fleet is, right? They're just a bunch of kids that are holding instruments.
Never heard of
and really, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page just don't have it in them to go on tour anymore.
I feel really bad that Trump made so much fun of her. I mean, all she wants to do is fix this earth. And he's making fun of that poor Greta Van Fleet.
The kids. It's about the kids.
Kids these days.
Got it all figured out.
No, I say help her, yeah. And the Greta Van Fleet, and I don't know. Maybe I'll have to grow into really accepting that sort of thing. I mean, honestly, you hear Oasis and you didn't go, oh, they stole from the Beatles.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
right.
And now we're all like, oh, the Oasis is badass.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. Especially when we talk to guys who are just like 5-6 years younger than we are. And they're just like, they don't know, but they still like the Beatles. But I don't know. I can't. Those things aren't exclusive. I mean,
I don't really want to say anything bad about the Van Fleet. I don't want them to like.
Oh no! Or anything. No, I think they're fucking great. I mean, they did that.
If they accidentally fell into a cult right now and just stopped playing music, it might do better for them. It might do better for them a little.
Maybe
bit. It might give them a little bit more respect. Yeah. Like if they never touched instruments ever again, and we only had the catalog we have so far.
Like if Elvis, like if Elvis died before he got fat, and
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I like some.
I do like Fat Elvis songs. I do. I caught in a trap. Like Suspicious Minds. I love that era. But
I mean, where do you draw the line on?
That's
Michael
hard.
Jackson? I mean, you have to like go. Where do I do it? It's like ABC 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Or Fly on the Wall. I'm having a hard time struggling with morality in this day and age.
It's chaos.
Especially with the interwebs.
Yeah.
Poisoning, everything.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. You can get into a lot of controversy with that discussion. Absolutely.
But I don't mean to go there. I just mean that.
Oh, I know.
Van Fleet.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
If they put out one more record, though, and it sounds exactly like Physical Graffiti or, I'm going to be like, man, come on. You never heard of them? You never heard of them before?
Right. 10 months gone.
Yeah. Come on. I'm pretty sure you might have heard Led Zeppelin before.
I think you did.
Right. They've got Kingdom Come got back together to open for them.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Kingdom Come, I mean, who knows? That'd be pretty good.
I had that record.
Yeah.
For 1 second, I think I thought you meant King's X, and I was like, oh, I'd be there for that.
Oh yeah, I love King's X.
Austin, Texas, man.
Yeah, well, they got started in Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's before they got the Mohawk guy, right?
Oh, he started there. Yeah, he started there.
Huh.
They were students at Evangel College.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Christian band.
And they went by The Edge. Then they were like U2 fans.
Wow.
And they went by The Edge, and then they moved to Texas and changed their name to King's X and got really big.
Yeah.
The only reason we know is because that was like a local band there.
That's awesome, man. I could just be wrong about saying Austin, Texas. For some reason, I thought that's where they were from.
I think Austin
or Houston.
Did they settle
or somewhere.
there?
You're right.
Did they settle there? It's sort of like 311 calling themselves like LA based band 311.
Yeah, but they're from Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, but they're from like Oklahoma, Nebraska guys, stuff like that. So, yep.
all the bands that moved from, everywhere in Washington, all hovered to Seattle. It was easier, but they were all Tacoma, Wenatchee, definitely Ellensburg and Olympia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's same all around. Well, if 311 comes back, Oklahoma will take them. They'll let them come back.
311's always back in my mind.
They still play
I've always been down.
Yeah, you've been down. They play it on the local radio station here, the K Rock or whatever. So we were never without our 311.
Right on.
We needed our.
Nice.
311 was like our No Doubt without the chick.
Right.
It was our Sublime. It was our Midwestern Sublime.
Yeah.
Don't speak.
And we had the Urge here in St. Louis.
The Urge.
Yeah.
And you guys had Sinister, not Sinister Dane. There was another band. They play at the Outhouse all the time. There's Ernie from Kansas City. That's going to pop in my head here. Tenderloin is the aftermath of that. But it's like the Sin City Disciples. We had the Sin City Disciples, Ernie singing.
Yeah.
But it's St. Louis area. They had a band called Sinister Six, or I'll think about it and we can talk about it another time.
We
could.
St. Louis bands. See, I'm trying to think of that era. There was New World Spirits.
Yeah, but they weren't really the kind of ska.
It was almost like the Urge name too. I mean, it's kind of like maybe they had that Urge in the name at one time.
Slugworth is one that was a Springfield
band.
This band would play with Mind Over 4 quite a bit. It'll come to me, man. You were in it.
You'll have to come back on, and we'll just shout it at the end of the episode.
You were in Illinois, though. You had Menthol, right?
That was it.
Did you get to catch them?
Yeah, but see, when I lived in Illinois up until I was about 17, and I was more of a Wax Trax kid.
Oh, I got you.
Because I was up by Chicago. So, I mean, that's where, like, the Ministry and me, like, endlessly seeking out every revolting cock I can find, or every pig-faced member and everything else, like, which gets on Matt's nerves all the time.
Oh, yeah, I really hate it.
We're going to be the Pig Face podcast. I was like, yeah.
We really have kind of become the unofficial Pig Face.
I love it, dude.
Podcast. We had Phildo on last night.
Yeah, Phildo, Chris Connolly, fucking Martin Atkins.
Oh, right on.
Not that many. We do have Leslie Rankin coming up pretty soon, so.
Right. Well, we just had Orville on too.
Yeah, Orville Klein.
Should
peace porn and chicken though.
Check into the Consolidated guys. I think they're still going around, and they're interesting cats to talk to, just because they had the whole political thing too.
Right. I want to get Frankie on for My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult too. Really bad.
There's that band Grotus, but they weren't on Wax Trax. But they were on Alternative Tentacles. They were like a live industrial thing, and they were awesome, good guys, and I think they're still doing it.
Yeah, I think so.
We could talk. I could.
Yeah, my favorite Alt Tentacles album was that. It was a compilation they did of all Dead Kennedy songs done by different bands and covers. L7 Faith No More was on there. Sepultura. No Means No.
Is it the You'll Get No Jello or something?
I can't remember what it's called.
Dig through my Alternative Tentacles now, man.
Yeah, it's been a while. Right. Been a minute since I had that record. But yeah, man, we don't want to keep you too long either, and we could do this all night.
I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, anything you want to pimp before we go that we haven't already talked about?
The
upcoming shows.
The only thing, we're getting ready to record another record here really soon, and we're doing it in Kansas City at Joel Nanis's place, Element Studio in Kansas City. He's recorded us a couple times already, but we're doing a record for the Special Olympics.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to give it, we're just giving it to them, and they're going to sell it and make the money off of it. We're going to pay for it to be made.
Cool.
But we're not going to make anything off of it.
Right on.
We're kind of big proponents of the Special Olympics here because we know the money goes the right way.
Mm-hmm.
We can kind of see it helping, and we have a local chapter that helps other chapters out. So it's an easy thing for us to do and leave a mark, leave a mark that doesn't matter about us. It's more about these kids.
Absolutely.
Right.
And hopefully it swings the way that we want it,
Yeah, we're happy to pimp that out.
Absolutely.
If we can do anything.
Yep.
I will definitely let you guys know when it's all done. And we're having some guest people come on and sing and play. So it'll be quite a few covers and then several originals. We wrote one song specifically for Special Olympics. So be on there.
Right on.
Cool.
I think that's something most musicians don't think about, is doing something not for themselves.
Yeah.
You think that a lot when you go and play a show, that you're doing it for the fans, but put your money where your mouth is, man. Do something,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That isn't just going to play a show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that generosity. Not just that, but just your generosity with time.
Oh man, I enjoy it. This is my first one. So, I was a virgin, no good, so.
Man, you did great. I really
had a good time. It'll be good.
Yeah, we would love to have you back on sometime.
Thank you guys. I really had a great
Thanks
time.
Thanks a lot.
Man.
7 Black.
I feel bad. I do you remember, did we even talk about, we didn't talk about this when I actually met you at Playing with Godzillionaire at the record bar?
Yeah, I was running the door, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We hung out there.
I was waiting to play. It's like one of my favorite things to do. That really, us playing last is a bad idea. And most bands know that we don't fuck around. We drink, and not only that, but
all right.
But we try to get everybody to have a good time.
That's how Mark Hennis referred to you guys. When talking to us, he's like,
right.
Has Headlight Rivals happened to you yet?
It's not a bad thing, I swear. It really is a thing of endearment. If you can't do that with your fellow bands, if you're just walking in and having a chip on your shoulder, then you're not doing the right job. You're not, you gotta be willing to throw down. That's what rock and roll is, man.
Amen.
Right. Apparently Cody has to keep his distance.
So, right.
Cody can hold his own. He just couldn't hold his own that night.
All right. Well, thanks, Seven.
Thank you guys, man.
Thank you.